Vulnerability in its truest sense is about courageously sharing yourself with the right people at the right time in the right way. You see, boundaries are not a wall. They are the gates to protect our inner selves. The more we expose our heart, the more we risk it being misunderstood, ignored, or worse, used against us. Boundaries aren't about shutting people out. They are about maintaining respect for ourselves and our relationships. If we fail to set these boundaries, we start to lose touch with our own sense of self-worth. When it comes to relationships, it's not about how many people we can share with, but rather who we share with. Not everyone deserves access to the most intimate parts of your life. People who will respect your vulnerability are the ones you need to invite closer, not those who only seek to take from you. It's essential to be discerning, and your vulnerability has become a buzzword. We hear it everywhere in leadership books, relationships podcasts, social media quotes. Be vulnerable, they say. Speak your truth. And while there is deep wisdom in those messages, there's also a common and dangerous misunderstanding. The belief that being vulnerable means you owe everyone access to your personal life. Let me be very clear. Vulnerability is not about oversharing. It's not blurting out your past traumas to someone you barely know. It's not posting every hardship online hoping for applause. Vulnerability is not about exposure for exposure's sake. It's about intentionally choosing when, how, and with whom you share the tender, real parts of your story. Vulnerability is courageous, but it must also be guarded, because when we hand out our most personal experiences without discernment, we risk being hurt, not because we were weak, but because we gave something sacred to someone who hadn't earned the right to hold it. Think of it like this. Your story is precious cargo. You don't toss it to anyone passing by. You place it gently into the hands of someone who has proven they can carry it with care. But here's the hard truth. Not everyone is safe. Not everyone will know what to do with your truth. Some will judge, some will gossip, some will minimize your experiences because it makes them uncomfortable. And when that happens, it doesn't just sting. It can make us feel foolish, ashamed, or even unworthy. And the tragic result, we start building emotional walls. We start believing that no one can be trusted, that we should just stay silent. But that's not the answer either. The goal isn't to never be vulnerable. The goal is to be strategically vulnerable. That means paying attention to who consistently shows up with empathy, who listens without trying to fix or dismiss, and who respects the privilege of being let in. These are the people who have earned the right to witness our vulnerability. There's a difference between authenticity and emotional exhibitionism. One seeks connection, the other seeks attention. One builds trust, the other demands validation. Vulnerability, when grounded in wisdom and self-respect, becomes a bridge to meaningful relationships. But when offered indiscriminately, it can become a source of pain, confusion, and regret. So vulnerability is not a free-for-all. It is a courageous act of discernment. And it's not a weakness. It's the strongest, most self-aware thing you can do to say, I choose to share this part of me with care because I know I'm worth protecting. There's a quiet kind of strength in being able to say, this is where I end and this is where you begin. That's what boundaries are. Clear lines we draw to protect our emotional, mental, and sometimes even physical space. And yet for so many of us, setting boundaries can feel uncomfortable, even selfish. But here's the truth. Boundaries are not about pushing people away. They're about protecting your self-respect. They are an act of clarity, courage, and deep self-awareness. When we set boundaries, we are not saying, I don't care about you. We are saying, I care about me too. Too often we confuse kindness with compliance. We bend, we stretch, we contort ourselves into shapes that make others more comfortable. And then we wonder why we feel resentful, exhausted, and unseen. When we live without boundaries, we start to disappear in our own lives. We say yes when we want to say no. We listen when someone is overstepping. We share too much with someone who hasn't earned it. We tolerate disrespect in the name of keeping the peace. But peace that costs you your voice, your well-being, or your dignity is not peace. It's quiet suffering. Boundaries are a declaration that your needs, your values, and your emotional safety matter. They are the lines you draw so that your heart doesn't become a doormat. And it's not about being rigid or distant. It's about choosing who gets access to the deeper parts of you. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your life. Some people are only meant to sit in the balcony, and that's okay. It's important to remember that boundaries are not for other people. They're for you. You are not responsible for how others feel about your limits. You are responsible for setting and holding those limits with integrity. That might mean saying, I'm not comfortable talking about that. Or I need some space. Or even, I'm not okay with the way you're speaking to me. And yes, it might disappoint people, but disappointment is not the same as disrespect. People who truly love you, people who are capable of healthy connection, will not be threatened by your boundaries. In fact, they will respect them because they respect you. And if someone reacts with guilt trips, manipulation, or anger, that is a reflection of them, not a failure on your part. Boundaries are also a radical form of self-trust. When you set a boundary, you're telling yourself, I believe my feelings matter. I trust myself to know what I need. I am willing to protect my peace. That is not weakness. That is wisdom. So if you've been taught that love means sacrifice without limits, let me gently remind you, real love includes respect for others and respect for yourself. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you care less. It means you've learned to care more wisely. You are allowed to be kind and clear, empathetic and firm, open and protected. Boundaries are not walls to keep love out. They are doors. Doors that you get to open, close, or lock based on who shows up with honesty, care, and respect. So ask yourself not, will they still like me if I say no, but will I still like myself if I keep saying yes? Because self-respect begins where people-pleasing ends. And you are worth protecting. One of the greatest acts of emotional maturity is learning that not everyone deserves access to you. Not your time, not your energy, and certainly not your personal life. Discernment is the quiet superpower that allows you to see beyond appearances and into character. It's the inner voice that whispers, pay attention, watch how they show up, listen to what isn't being said in relationships, whether romantic, platonic, or professional. Discernment is what helps us determine who is safe, who is kind, who is consistent, and who is not. We live in a culture that celebrates connection, but rarely teaches us to differentiate between true connection and false intimacy. Just because someone is charming or curious doesn't mean they're trustworthy. Just because someone asks you to open up doesn't mean they know what to do with what you offer. Some people invite your vulnerability simply because they want the story, not because they're willing to carry the weight of your truth with tenderness and care. Discernment asks us to pause, to look beyond the surface, to stop mistaking attention for affection or presence for partnership. When we lack discernment, we tend to operate from a place of longing. We're so hungry to be seen, to be heard, to be understood. We offer ourselves too quickly, too deeply to people who haven't earned that level of trust. And when those people don't handle our hearts well, when they gossip, distance themselves, or use what we've shared against us, we feel betrayed. But it's not just a betrayal by them, it's a quiet betrayal of ourselves too. Because deep down we knew. We ignored the small red flags. We told ourselves we were being too guarded when really we were being wise. That wisdom matters. You get to be kind without being naive. You get to be generous without being wide open. You get to be warm without handing over every part of yourself to people who haven't shown that they are capable of holding it. Discernment means understanding that not everyone is your people. And that's not a judgment. It's a boundary. Real, safe relationships are built over time. They're not rushed. Let's be honest. At some point, most of us have shared something personal, not because we felt truly safe, but because we were hoping it would make us feel seen, liked, or even loved. That's a very human thing to do. We all want to feel known. We all crave connection. But here's where the trouble begins. When we start confusing sharing with self-worth and oversharing with intimacy, we hand over our stories in search of approval rather than connection. We give people our insides hoping they'll give us something back, a compliment, sympathy, a deeper relationship, or even just attention. And in that moment, we're not being vulnerable. We're bargaining. We're saying, if I give you this part of me, will you give me your validation? That's not real connection. That's performance in disguise. True connection doesn't require performance. It doesn't demand that you lay out all your wounds to earn a place at the table. Real connection is built on mutual respect, empathy, and trust, not on how much you're willing to reveal to feel included. When we share parts of ourselves with others, it should come from a place of wholeness, not a place of emptiness. From a place of, I'm already enough, and I'm choosing to share this with you, rather than I'm hoping this makes you like me. There's a quiet strength in being able to sit with your own story first, learn it, understand it, heal from it, and only then decide who is worthy of hearing it. If you share too soon, too deeply with the wrong person, their response can shape how you see yourself. Validation isn't inherently bad. We all need it in small doses. But when it becomes the main goal, it leads us to places where we compromise our authenticity. We start curating our truth instead of living it. We present edited versions of our pain. We fish for reactions instead of building relationships. And worse, we start measuring our worth by how others respond. Did they like what we said? Did they reply quickly? Did they open up back? If not, we feel small, insecure, maybe even ashamed. But sharing for connection is slower, gentler. It respects the sacredness of your story. It says, I don't need you to fix me or praise me. I just want to be seen for who I really am. And I want to offer that same gift back to you.